So I'm sitting down today with someone where we've known of each other for, I'd say, just shy 8 to 10 years.
Yep.
Someone who's an alma mater. We went to the same college together.
Go Noles.
Go Noles. And I sat down. You're in a 30 under 30 at this point, and I'm just inspired, trying to figure out what to do as a college student. Turns out you're now catering events at Valuetainment, and we're sitting down here today. So I'm sitting down with the CEO of Vale, Sunny. Sunny, good to see you, brother.
Nice to see you, Antonio. It's been a while. It's great to connect. It's always a pleasure. It's over the years, for me, it feels like a blur, but ultimately, for me, this is exciting, catching up with you, working with you now in a greater capacity.
Yeah. It's funny. We booked this podcast over about a week ago, and today just so happens you're catering food to Valuetainment.
Yeah.
And I sent you a video like, man, yeah, that was all off the cuff.
Listen, it was just alignment. At the end of the day, things are just meant to happen. And, working with you and Valuetainment, it's been excellent. I mean, I've never met so many high performers in one room, like that. The first thing I said, to your team was really, I was taken aback by how many people were just so locked in, and you could just feel the energy. So working with you guys is a pleasure, for me, because I get out of my four walls and I get into your space and I leave energized myself. So I'm glad you guys like the food.
Yeah, we keep having you back, so we appreciate it. So a couple things I want to touch on, if you don't mind sharing a little bit about, from myself, seeing you from the very first time. I think we're probably talking 2017, 2018.
Yeah.
When you're at the 30 under 30, Florida State. I'm sitting in the audience, Jim Brand School of Entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And at this point, I'm focused in. I'm like, man, someone who not only went to my college, has built an incredible business at this time, just a few years of you being in business, to now, fast forward almost 10 years later. If you don't mind, share a little bit of your journey.
For sure. So I'm going to touch on the 2017-18 part after, but I started, I was going to school at Florida State. I was young, I was 21 years old, and I was a pre-med major, really focusing on, trying to balance everything on my plate, which was at that time working 3 jobs, balancing a social life as a 21-year-old, going to the gym, staying healthy and active, and then of course my studies, which were very rigorous, taking all pre-med courses, and I saw a massive need in the market. I did not know much about business, but I always had kind of a business tenacity when it came to hustle and grit. And I saw there was a huge need in the market when it came to healthy food. It was in Tallahassee at that point, and even to this day, there's just a few options when it comes to healthy eating and food. It's in the Bible Belt, of the South. So fried chicken is the main food that's consumed all throughout. So health food was very scarce back in 2014, 2012, and it is still to this day pretty scarce, even with us having multiple locations there now. So I started initially, I had this idea that there has to be so many other peers of mine that are struggling to eat healthy while maintaining all of these things that we're juggling. So I said, let me create a solution. At that time, restaurants was the last thing I was thinking about. I was thinking about more on the nutrition side. I was always passionate about healthy eating, preventative health, all those types of things. And, growing up as I did wrestling, I always had to be dialed in on my weight and nutrition through that. I decided to start a healthy meal plan delivery business where I convinced 20 of my friends at the time, in my fraternity, let me cook for you. I'll, portion the food, deliver the food. I'll change the menu up every day and it'll be fresh food, and I'll give it to you at a great price. Started with 20 people. Then the following week turned to 40, turned to 80. Next thing I know, we're feeding 100, 200, 300. We grew it to a 500 person clientele. And I was 21 years old and I was learning business on the extreme fly.
Wow.
So that's how Vale got its start. But the moment that I started, I had that kind of aha moment where I was like, I know once I figure this out, this is it, and it can be great. if I can get it all sorted out. So for me then, I did that for 4 years. Then in 2016, I had the idea of like, okay, I can grow this meal plan business, or I can use this as enough validation to pivot into the restaurant business. You know, if we're feeding this many people, doing 1,500 meals a day in meal plans, that's enough, reason to say, okay, we can start a restaurant. So in 2016, I opened the first one in Tallahassee. And then soon thereafter, I opened in Gainesville, Florida, replicating the college market model. And then Tampa, Florida was our first, mid-sized metro market that we wanted to enter. We saw that we had success with young professionals and students. So we said, okay, let's keep on doing this. Quickly grew to Jacksonville, another one in Tallahassee, and then in 2019 opened up in Fort Lauderdale. That was our first location in South Florida. As you know, COVID happened. It was like a great reset. And then in the last few years, we've opened up, stores number 7, 8, 9, 10.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So just to even touch on it for a moment, 21 years old, college, you're already serving 40 meals at this point? 40, 50, 60 meals?
40 people. So hundreds of meals.
How did you manage that?
I convinced essentially there was, I knew 100% I did not have the facilities for this. And I knew I was like, I've worked in restaurants growing up. You got to have a commercial kitchen to do any type of cooking at scale, right? So I convinced a sports bar owner in Tallahassee. I said, let me sublease your kitchen. They were no longer really doing a food program at this place. It was like very minimal. So I said, let me sublease it at night when you're not using it. And I'll work from the hours of essentially midnight to 10 a.m. where your staff is not even in yet. And we'll have everything clean and perfect where we don't take up, we're not in your way.
Right.
So I was working pretty much like crazy hours because my staff was going in overnight and working all throughout the night. So I'm going to sleep when my staff is like working. It's kind of like hard to sleep, when you have that an operation going on.
Right.
So that's initially how we got our start. I had to sublease the kitchen.
Wow. And it's taken you to where you're at here today.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So for you, I know what you're trying to solve for, as far as healthy eating, impacting, as far as county, state, going around across the U.S., eventually worldwide. Something that many entrepreneurs struggle with early on, something that, when I'm having conversations with entrepreneurs, as far as vision, as far as clarity, if you don't mind touching on as far as your vision. I know you said when you first got started, hey, I just want to cook for you. To it grew, healthy eating, probably making it a little bit easier for your brothers around you in the fraternity, college. We didn't want to cook. Sometimes eating out, it could rack up the money. But for you, when did the vision get so clear where you said, man, buckle up, we're ready to go?
I don't think there's ever really, you can plan forever. But, I always tell people, who are, very cranial in a way and they want to have everything perfected before they start something. The best thing to do is just get started. Don't get in your head, before thinking like I'm ready, because truly no entrepreneur is ever 100% ready.
Right.
You're never going to be fully ready. And you sometimes can fall victim to what I say is analysis paralysis, where you're thinking through all these scenarios and things and, I got to make this perfect and this. Your product's not perfect in the beginning. My food in the beginning is nowhere near as good as it is today. But you have to have that commitment to your clientele, your guest, to where that you're going to do everything in your power to give them the best representation of you and deliver value. Because ultimately, if you're solving a problem for someone, they're going to find a need in your service, no matter if you're perfect or not, because you're really solving a problem for them. If you're not solving a problem, you probably don't have a business.
Yeah, and we have conversations, I've shared this on videos in the past for myself, when there's entrepreneurs who, they struggle with the done is better than perfect. They want to have, like you're saying, that perfect storm, that perfect, whether it's a product, service, or that perfect layout before you even set your eyes on it. At that point, you're far too late for the marketplace. So For yourself, as far as I know your vision, but if you don't mind sharing how you're able to take what's in your mind, what's in Sunny's mind to drive your team, drive the company. I know you've said on many podcasts in the past, and for us catching up here, we're not done at 10 stores. We want to scale, we want to double, triple, and so on and so forth. How do you share that and instill that into the minds of your team?
Ultimately, it's every leader's job to deliver on growth. And growth is a word that I love. And I think any really high performer loves the idea of growth, right? I want to grow into the best version of myself. I want my restaurants to grow into more units. But before, sometimes you need to understand that as a leader, right, it's no longer about you. When you're building a company, it's about your people.
Right.
And it's about the people you're serving and you're delivering to. So it's about your guests. For me, at least, and what I'm doing, like whatever accolades and things that I receive, that's great and all. But that really is just validation on saying, hey, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. When it comes to my team, how I deliver growth and how I really get them fired up in the sense of what we are doing and what we are building and the problems that we're solving is my promise to them is that as a leader, I'm going to continue to grow you. I'm going to continue to pour into you. You give us 100%, Vale is going to give you 200%. In the restaurant industry, there's a lot of places that take advantage of, people in the hospitality business, a lot of overpromises, underdelivers. There's a lot of unfortunate bad business practices, that has really scorned a lot of professionals. And for me, building that trust with my team has always been what I say, and what I say, I mean it, and I deliver on it. And I run a completely transparent organization. At the end of the day, and transparency, I just had this conversation recently, but transparency, you gotta have it on both sides of the spectrum, right? Everybody likes transparency. You wanna know how everything is going, and you don't wanna feel like the business you're working at is withholding information from you. But also it goes in the other spectrum where I'm also transparent on, hey, these are the areas that are not going so well. Like I don't withhold the criticism and feedback as well. It's never in a condescending manner or a negative manner. It's always in a, hey, let's address this, let's fix this, let's move forward, kind of mindset. Mm-hmm. But transparency goes both ways. You can't just have it where, where the part of transparency that you like, you're gonna have the other side too.
Yeah, you have to have that crucial conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not always the conversations we want to hear, but it's the conversations we need to hear.
For sure.
To allow us to get to that next level.
Yeah. So for me, growing your, as we grow outward Vale and we open more locations, we're also focused on growing inward. How can we grow inward? And for me, it always, I do not want to grow outward if I don't have the right infrastructure and the right people working with me. Because ultimately, I'm sitting here with you today. I have 10 restaurants operating. I trust that I have the right people in them holding it down and following our policies, procedures, but also taking care of our guests. So people and investing in people, it is number one for us.
At Valuetainment, we have 9 different divisions. Mm-hmm. And when Patrick first started Valuetainment, the different divisions they were developing, of course, in the early stages. We still are. We're still almost a startup company, what we like to say. But we're having a conversation one day. We're in California, and Patrick shares, "Hey, it's been a few days. I've been out of the office. It was part of a business trip." And he says, as we're, eating this dinner, we're wrapping up. He says, usually I'm not okay leaving the office. Usually I'm not okay being out for this long. Why? Because the business is operating. But why am I okay being here right now away from Valuetainment? He says, because I have the right leaders in place. They're going to deliver. I know the job's going to get done. People are being held accountable. Yeah, of course, I need to get back there. Job's not finished. Job's nowhere near being finished. But I know the right people are in place. They're going to deliver. And it's such a good feeling to set that up.
Absolutely. And he has 100% confidence in his team. Like at the end of the day, that's super apparent. I've never met Patrick Bet-David, but from what I have seen, he not only talks the talk, but he walks the walk. And I say this to every one of my managers, anyone that's on my corporate team. I always say, when I walk into a restaurant, I immediately know, do they have good management or not, based on how the restaurant is running and operating, right? And how I see a restaurant and how restaurant people see restaurants is completely different than the general public or other consumers. When I walked into Valuetainment, doing that catering order, and I really mean this. I don't say fluff, for anyone.
Right.
I walked in there and I was like, God dang, every person I shook hands with was so dialed in. You can't fake that. Like, you really want to be there, and for me, I was like, what Patrick is doing, like that, to get that level of buy-in isn't an easy thing to establish, that type of culture. That takes real deal leadership, real follow through, and also making sure you are working with the right people. Because that's also a personality of, hey, these are people who really want to be great. That's why they're there.
Yeah. At that point when you came, that was December time. Yeah. I believe it was probably 5 to 6 weeks before that, we had Ritz-Carlton come in for an executive training on levels of empowerment, leadership, culture, buy-in. And man, since that actual training, whether it's an employee of Ritz-Carlton, they say it's the ladies and gentlemen of Ritz-Carlton. They represent Ritz-Carlton. They are Ritz-Carlton. And we had a 2-day intense training from Ritz-Carlton. It was absolutely incredible.
Wow.
But from that moment, the biggest paradigm shift for myself is that even the person who is cleaning and flipping that room, cleaning the toilets, the actual hotel room, is just as satisfied, happy to work there than the person at the receptionist, running the pool deck, whatever position there might be at a hotel. They're just as happy and empowered and feeling the want, the trust, the opportunity to change someone's life and put a smile on their face. And Ritz-Carlton asked a question I want to ask you here. Do you hire the genuine care, or can you train somebody to be genuine, to have that genuine care?
Man, that's a good question. I hire the genuine care, but that doesn't mean that we don't reinforce, genuine care through our training, our processes, and our culture, right? Because for us, the one thing that we say is that if you care, it's going to show, and if you don't care, it's going to show through your work ethic, through your follow through, through your consistency. And we say that to our management, our team members, because we really want people to care. We understand, we have team members that are helping our guests, building bowls, helping them with food. But instead of saying it like that, hey, you're just making meals and bowls, we try to emphasize, hey, you are helping people. You are nourishing your community. You are helping people make healthier choices. You are a difference maker in your community. We try to make them feel more, empowered into their position to where they're helping guide people. Because for me, that's my biggest pleasure. When I'm in my restaurants, I was talking to an elderly couple from Brazil the other day. They came into my restaurant and they were talking to me in Spanish/Portuguese. I don't speak Portuguese. I'm intermediate at Spanish.
Right.
I live in Miami.
Yep.
But I was speaking to them, and they were asking me a bunch of questions because they had some dietary restrictions. And they were so appreciative. I answered every single question of theirs. And it's those little things where you don't realize, a lot of people don't realize when it's your normal day-to-day, you're doing the same thing over and over every day, how that conversation is impacting the person you're talking to. So to me, that's super important. I have another, customer of mine in Jacksonville that's eaten at my restaurant almost 100 days in a row.
Wow.
I think more than 100 days in a row. And she is obsessed with our food, but I actually had a conversation with her when I was in Jacksonville a few weeks ago. I met her in person, said, hey, thank you so much for, your loyalty to our brand and support. And she told me it's because she has Crohn's disease, and she can't eat at many restaurants. We have allowed her to actually feel like she's living a normal life and she can go to restaurants, she can eat. We want to make sure every person in the Crohn's community knows, hey, you are welcome in our restaurants. Scratch that. Everyone who has dietary restrictions, if you ever are uneasy about going and eating at a restaurant, know that Vale has your back and that we accommodate every dietary restriction and we have you in mind.
Is that cooked on the spot, or is that already how the menu is prepared?
For us, we can make those accommodations. So the menu in general has enough variety and diversity to where we already appeal to every demographic, and every dietary restriction. But if someone has any specific needs and they request something, hey, I would like you to make salmon with 0 seasoning. I would like you to make, this with this. We tell our team, make the modification, take care of the guest. Communicate, hey, this may take 5 more minutes or 10 more minutes, but we try to do everything in our power to make sure our guests are happy.
I just read the book today at our staff meeting, the event that you just catered today.
Yeah.
We read the book Raving Fans.
Okay.
And it's not, I wouldn't say similar, but I know you just read Unreasonable Hospitality, Will Guidara. We'll get to that here in just a moment. But Raving Fans shows it's not only winning over that customer, the satisfaction at the transaction, but it's everything you do there on after. Pulling them back in, allowing them to have a voice and say, you know what, that's my brand, that's my guy, that's my company. Yep. So everything you just shared, based off the question I asked you, can you hire the genuine care or is it something you train? Ritz-Carlton says it's someone you hire. You hire into that position because they already have that trait, that innate ability, and it's something where they're trained to ask certain questions to hopefully find that actual person. So the reason I bring this up, when you said you came to our event in December, that was our team. We know exactly what we're solving for, what we're here to do. Patrick has the mission statement for Valuetainment to enlighten, entertain, and empower current and future leaders around the world. And that event you came to, we had entrepreneurs in there easily doing over 100 million in revenue, very successful businesses focused on planning with Patrick Bet-David. And in that room, I appreciate the feedback and what you're sharing, especially with my team, but it's a culture that Patrick built, and all credit goes to Patrick. We have a code of honor we actually just came out with about 4 weeks ago. And in that code of honor, there's 12 codes of honor. And people ask you, Patrick, how do you build this culture? How do you build that dynamic, that buy-in, empowerment, trust, that feeling when we're in the office or when customers or clients or guests are with us, how do they feel? Like, how do you build that? Patrick says we have a chief culture officer, and it's right there. And he points to a board. He goes, there's our code of honor. It's on the wall. But now we have it in a book. And typically when you have a culture book or a culture manual, Fortune 500 companies have it. They're running a couple $100 million operations. But Patrick said, we're in year 3. Here's our culture manual. Why? Because we know we have the formula to build and develop leaders. So appreciate that feedback and you sharing that. And it's not
that's
easy.
Incredible. Yeah. No, it's not easy. And you really got to commit to it. It has to be, completely 360. It has to be, well balanced into everything that you do.
Yeah, there's no doubt. So I have so many more questions I could keep rattling.
Keep on going, man. I'm ready to rock,
So for yourself here, I'm curious. Was it what was the major? What was
Pre-med.
it? Pre-med.
Exercise physiology.
That's what it was. Exercise physiology to entertain the conversation of food prepping, meals. We're talking about Vale, what is now. But who trains the trainer? Who coaches the coach on your journey to where you're at, Sunny, today? Who or what got you to this point?
Wow. Look, I was in Tallahassee at the time. It was a very small knit business community. I definitely benefited from going around, and I remember doing a entrepreneurial education program, learning certain foundations of business, which was like kind of through the city of Tallahassee. I did. That was with Larry Lynch. I don't know if you remember him. Yeah.
We were part of the same one.
Yeah,
it was
incredible.
TCC Innovation Park. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, so I did that. I forgot what class I was in, maybe number 7 or something like that. It just rings a bell. But I remember I would go to those classes at night, and it was like a 4-hour class.
Do you remember a guy named Caesar?
It's a blur.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you. But I remember going to those classes. I remember going around the city of Tallahassee, and the good thing about Tallahassee, it's a great place to start a business because it has that Southern hospitality. Everyone will give you a meeting. Doesn't necessarily mean that, the meeting's going to go your way, but it has a lot of Southern charm and hospitality where it's very welcoming. So when I was seeking out education and help from professionals, a lot of people gave me their time. For me, even, there's an attorney who helped me out tremendously, Jake Kiker. I think that guy is like one of the most dynamic forces in Tallahassee, like really has helped develop the entrepreneurial culture there. And he did so much work for, for me, helping me kind of understand, obviously, business law and everything regarding what I was doing, and helping me out and connecting me with different people. Forever appreciative of him. And there's other, professionals, Keith Bowers, a lot of people who are very, very active in Tallahassee who helped me. But what helped me in restaurants, primarily restaurateurs to restaurateurs, it's really a closed door, kind of approach. There's not many restaurant people helping other restaurant startups because you're busy. You're running your restaurant,
Right.
like you don't really have the time to be coaching a startup restaurant. And then there's a lot of like old school competitiveness, whereas like, hey, like I don't want to tell you too much. This guy can steal my business, market share. So they keep things more close to the chest. It's not like some other sectors that may be a little bit more friendly.
Right.
But so I never really got that mentorship. I always was looking for that. And I wish I had that. Looking back, I really wish I would have probably just maybe pushed myself a little extra to find someone, but I never really got that. So what did I have to resort to was books and learning on the fly, and really, really just being what I am, it's just a quick problem solver, fail fast, fix fast, and that was really my way of kind of like guiding myself through this entrepreneurial journey.
Wow. So you said Richard. I know Richard from FSU Law. Mm-hmm. And what about Curtis? He was a part of that program. Familiar. Yeah. A couple of good names. You're bringing back some memories right now. So, okay. So for you, it was books. Mm-hmm. For me, I remember, just to talk about my journey for a moment, with Patrick Bet-David, when I was building my software company at the exact same time, there was a video I watched. It was Life of an Entrepreneur. I remember which way I was laying down, what I was going through. At this point, it was a little, like, it's a small little stress ball compared to what, the problems we're solving now, right? But I remember exactly what I was going through, and I watched that video, and it changed everything for me. But I'm curious, you said reading books helped build your foundation to seek that type of mentorship, that guidance. If you could rattle off maybe a few books that made such an impact, you said, man, this has helped me shape my mindset, my identity, got me here. What books come to mind?
For me, the Grinding It Out by Ray Kroc, founder of McDonald's. Guy's 52 years old, selling milkshake machines door to door, finds this concept. This concept had, the McDonald brothers,
right,
who didn't realize like there was really a sleeping giant, per se, and he took them to a massive scale, and through his tenacity and grit, he was able to create McDonald's, which is, it's not the healthiest brand, but I have a lot of respect for the fact that they've scaled, this earth, and they've done a lot of incredible things as a business. I hope that they, do a lot of better things to clean up their nutrition and stuff. But hey, at the end of the day, like I have a lot of respect for what I learned in that book, and some of the principles in business were really incredible and helped me really understand, one, how difficult the journey is, how tumultuous it can be with the highs and lows. And really, if you're committed to solving that problem, like you really need to go, push past your limits and continue to try to solve it. So that was a big one. Meditations by Marcus Aurelius is just it's a great book. I would recommend any young person to read it. It can really help someone understand how to manage themselves and grow through their adulthood, I feel like, with a better poise over their emotions, themselves. It really helped me in the early days of business, because as a business owner, you have no one to turn to. You're having a good day, you're having a bad day. The leader has to be the leader. You cannot, go to your staff crying to your staff, upset, or having these crazy emotions. You need to be that strong, consistent force, guiding and leading them. And for me, that book really helped me out.
Meditations.
So I would say those two are the ones that come to my mind. There's really so many, but The Hard Thing About Hard Things, The Lean Startup, like there's a lot of other books that I've read over the years that were just profoundly, impactful. And even to this day, like, I think reading is, one of the best things that anyone can do to really just sharpen your sword.
Yeah. I want to go back to books for just a sec.
Yeah.
But for you, shared something that's huge. And to someone who's just getting started, or someone who's in the early stage, or someone who hasn't experienced what you just said, it's a very impactful moment. Like you say, it's lonely at the top. The CEOs don't really have someone to turn to. For someone like yourself, who do you, if you don't mind sharing, who do you turn to?
I'm lucky. I have my family is amazing. My family, I can go to my sister, I can go to my brother, my mom, my dad, I can talk to them about anything. And I'm very thankful I don't have a family that's, I would say, unrealistic with my schedule. They totally understand I'm very busy. They don't try to make me feel bad about it, that I'm not always fully available at every, drop of a dime. They're so super supportive. And for me, they've given me so much peace over the years that like I'm forever indebted, because not everyone's family is like that. So for me, going to them, I have a lot of business colleagues as well. I tell every person in business, like, you gotta have a good network of like-minded individuals that you can go to. Because myself, I go to my friends that have businesses, and we're able to really, vent a little bit to each other about, hey man, like, today was a really rough day, or this was this, and like, just having someone who's in your shoes that are doing some of the same things, like, even if it's different sectors and different core product offerings, at the end of the day, having that ability to talk to them about it is, it really helps in a little way. I don't really I'm not one of those people who try to vent too much, but hey, when you're having a rough day, you're human. You gotta let it out a little bit.
You need someone to talk to.
Yeah.
I tell my team, so at Bet David Consulting, we have these conversations. I'm talking to my team. Sometimes you might be a therapist for an entrepreneur. You might be someone where you say a few things, you're going through the needs analysis, you're trying to understand them, you build that relationship where they open up, and man, they just start talking.
Yeah.
They're a CEO, they're busy, they're running probably a $15 to $20 million operation, but all of a sudden they have a few minutes. And they just want that person where they could take a deep breath and just talk.
What I've seen from those conversations, right? I'm sure you've seen this in your conversations. 90% of the time when you're having one of those conversations, you're talking about a problem. And as you are talking together, the person who has the problem ends up figuring out the solution through the conversation.
Just because they're talking.
And you just have the idea, and it pops, oh, I know how to solve it. Or have you tried this or this? And that collaborative kind of effort ends up bringing, it just ends up taking the initial conversation where it was like, oh man, like, I'm having a rough day, or I'm venting, to, oh wow, I just fixed it.
Yeah. You know why? Sometimes it could be you're just stacking.
Yeah.
Every day you run in and out of meetings. Okay, let's stack this here. In and out of meetings, stack it here. And all of a sudden at the end of the day it comes, you're like, I can't even think straight. Yeah. And sometimes when we have those conversations, it's one thing to say, talk about it, but all of a sudden you're thinking about it, the creative juices are flowing.
Yeah.
And it's all sometimes an entrepreneur needs. But I want to circle back to a book I know you just read, we mentioned it, Unreasonable Hospitality, Will Guidara. Yep. He's actually one of our expert operators on our team. But he shares something, and I want to talk about this here for just a moment, where he says, providing an unreasonable hospitality or a moment of hospitality to your clientele, you overheard a conversation, you acted in a way of kindness, you shared a kind gesture, like he talks about in the book, the hot dog story and things like that. So for you, I know you said it was your whole company read it, is that right?
Yeah. My every leader in my company is reading that book right now, and we're on our weekly conference calls. We're going through chapter by chapter.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we're actually talking and doing chapter reviews together as a team, and it's really refreshing to get this content into my team and having us all experience the book together. I've read the book before, but I'm reading it again with my team. Yeah, no, it's definitely impactful. I think it's 2 years ago, I was very fortunate enough with Patrick, went to 11 Madison Park, Will's old restaurant. Been there, great.
Yeah, oh my goodness. The experience, he sold it by the time I was there, but just the experience, knowing the footsteps I was in, the way he built it, cultivated the behind the scenes, how everything came together is just incredible. But the reason why I bring up this book is because Will shares a concept. He says, I don't care how great of a product you have, because someone eventually is going to come and maybe outpace you. But the experience you provide, and we just had this conversation at the beginning here, the level of the hospitable experience, or the level of care, love, respect for your team, or even the clientele that you have, that's going to be tenfold. And I think he shares a statistic. The amount of marketing dollars you put into marketing your business can 6x if you just provide an incredible experience. And we have a monthly mastermind with Will, and he shares a great story. We're talking to a client who's in HVAC. We can both probably agree it's a little unattractive of an industry.
Yeah.
So he's talking to one of these entrepreneurs, and he says, hey, how do I provide a little bit more of an experience where I'm inviting and I maybe referrals, or have my clientele just come back to me and talk about my business and share with a friend? Will said, listen, it's not my industry, but I could rattle off a couple ideas. He goes, are you typically in houses, commercial? He goes, no, I'm in houses. He goes, you're in the most intimate setting of anybody. You know what it smells like, looks like, what they wear, everything about this person. And he says, I'll give a random example. Let's say you're doing some work and you stumble across the bedroom, but on your way there, you see an iPhone charger. Okay, great. It's safe to say they probably have an iPhone. So, okay. But if you look next to the bed, let's say there's no charger. After you're done with the job, maybe you call one of your guys, go to the store, go to a quick Apple store, buy a $20 charger. It doesn't have to be the cost, but it has to be the gesture. And maybe leave a little note on it. Now you might be saying, Antonio, how does a charger, how does this create the experience? But imagine that entrepreneur, that person, that homeowner that hired the gentleman for HVAC, all of a sudden is sitting next to their bed and there's an iPhone charger with a note on it. How does that make you feel? Okay, you might think, why'd they do this? But guess what? Every time your phone dies or every time you need to charge your phone, I'm thinking about the HVAC guy. Every time at dinner, your phone's died. Uncle John, your phone needs a charge. Yeah. Hey, I got to tell you about this guy. All of a sudden, you're now in conversation. I would have never talked about HVAC at a dinner table. But he shares stories like this where it makes you think, man, and it makes you feel so good just to be around inviting people. It was a $20 gesture where probably referral after referral, that guy has business for life.
We talk about that a lot, and it's really, it's such an important aspect for every industry. It's not just the hospitality industry that needs to be hospitality centric. I think in today's age, business, especially in America, all over the world, but especially here, this is all I know, doing business here. This is survival of the fittest, and whoever is the best and the strongest will survive. And through that, you need to adapt, you need to innovate, you need to pivot, you need to constantly be evolving for your guest, for your client. So for us, we really believe that as well, and we feel one of the biggest things that we are focusing on at Vale this year is elevating that experience. Really making sure that people don't just perceive us as a healthy, fast casual restaurant that they can just go pick up a healthy meal and leave, but really we want to curate a start to finish positive emotion experience for the guest. So we don't ever want anyone entering our restaurant and leaving dissatisfied or having a negative emotion to even occur. For me, it was, I'm trying to look into any subtle pain point that we can just isolate and remove that from the guest. So for us, things that we're doing is really focusing more on team member development, coaching, and finding more ways to where we can, as we have guests in our restaurant, interacting with them and finding out different cues. Hey, this is their first time in. They haven't tried this before. We coach our teams to, let them know, hey, let them sample these things, give them this, this something as a gift, and leave an impact on that person to where they have a reason to come back, because you can go anywhere to get food, but you're going to come to my restaurant because you're going to realize, hey, I like the people there more. I feel better when I eat there. I feel like I can trust this place. And trust is such an important aspect in business. If you don't have it, and I would say trust in anything, right? If you don't have trust in a relationship, in a business partnership, and with your end clientele, with your guest, you can never grow anything. So for us, that hospitality focus is so critical, and it's one of the biggest themes I'm really running at this year.
It's huge. Sometimes it's well overlooked. For a very lean and green startup, I'm the CEO, I have to run it, to having team members, to building it. Sometimes we forget, I have to invest in my guys, invest in my team, which is what you're sharing here. To a well-established company, your team comes first, right? What you're sharing right now. But I'm curious, for development of yourself, who coaches the coach, who mentors the mentor? For yourself, that's great. But how about for your team? If you don't mind sharing, how do you do that with your team within an industry where arguably there's great turnover? How do you first of all, the question is, how do you train them or build them up, build their confidence, identity, but also selling them the dream, the vision where Vale's going? What does that look like?
First and foremost, we have a very thorough recruiting process. Before any manager can enter our organization, you have to meet myself, my vice president, my director of ops, my other directors, my area manager, my full team. We have to all fully approve of this individual before you come in. So you already are meeting the people, understanding the culture, and understanding, hey, what are our expectations? So for us, the growth aspect and training is the most important part, and it has to be an intention from day one. We never want to onboard people, and of course, we've done this in the past, and we regret it. When we've hired people when we were a very, very young company, and we just throw them to the fire, right? And we're trying to train them, but we're not doing it at a high level, and we've been burned, by that. And it's unfortunate because we've misled people too. I wish I would have trained certain people better, and I had more time to give them a way better experience. We were a startup, it was some shortcomings of us just being small.
Yeah.
We learned the hard way, and now we developed a very, very thorough training program for management, for team members, to really get the education to them, to get them confident, to get them feeling like they have mastery in their position and that they can elevate to higher positions as well. But you have to be intentional about that, and you have to really care. As an organization, it has to be a focal point for you. And if it's not, it's going to show. The customer's not going to be happy. The guest is really going to tell you in your reviews, and they're going to tell you that, hey, this is not a consistent product, or they're not getting the value proposition. So for me, that training piece is so critical, and it is to this day. We're constantly trying to fine tune it, trying to get it better and better, because there's no worse feeling than having a talented person and them not being able to live up to their highest, impact because you didn't pour enough into them.
Not being able to find their full potential because you didn't give them the opportunity, or they couldn't see it because you didn't allow it. I want to ask you a deep question.
Yeah.
Why does any of this matter to you? From the leadership development to Vale in general, to making an impact to worldwide, why does this matter to Sunny?
At the end of the day, like I said, you have to find your reason why. And when I was starting out, I was the difference maker. I was the person, I was the driving force for my company, for everything. All sorts of, from product development to marketing to sales to operations. I was able to wear every hat. As we scaled, I realized this is no longer about me. And not every person who is a star player can learn how to be a coach. That is not always an easy migration. You can be Tom Brady, but you may not be able to be Bill Belichick. You need both, right, on your team, but not everyone can turn into that. And for me, it was a very important, it's very important to me to make sure that the work that I'm doing is really going to help people. The reason why I was a pre-med major is because I wanted to help people. I didn't know, what exact, medicine I wanted to go into and what practice, but I wanted to help. And for what I saw, and what I still see, is the majority of restaurants are poisoning people. The majority of restaurants are misleading people. People are going there and they're going to these beautiful places that may, massive corporations have turned into very enticing, venues, and they're eating and they feel like, oh yeah, this food tastes really good, but internally they're being poisoned and mistreated, and it's creating a massive unhealthy effect on this entire country. And to me, it's sinister, for me, and I want to be a part of the movement to help solve this and make a massive impact to get people and be a gateway to health, where they don't feel like they're making sacrifices. So the 4 pain points that we were solving when I was creating Vale was, how can I make healthy food affordable with a variety that was convenient and that it was also delicious? For a lot of people, they said to me back in 2012, oh, healthy food, oh my God, it's so boring. They're like brown rice, broccoli, and chicken. I can't eat that every day. It has no flavor. It has no variety. It's not convenient. I don't want to cook it.
Right.
Or it's too expensive. I can't go to Whole Foods and spend my whole paycheck. And that was a thing. People said those words to me. And for me, now it's so exciting because like we're in this era, 2025. I know RFK is also working on some major health reform in the FDA and changing up. Yeah, it's a huge win. Getting these chemicals and things out of our food supply that is causing massive system disruption. And I just like I've said to you before, I want to make sure the work that I'm doing is going to a greater good. Money, accolades, those type of things have never been my focus. My focus has always been on impact and how can I help people. Because for me, that's been where I felt my highest moments in business in my career, is helping others and doing everything in my power to really, see that the work that I'm doing is, really making a difference. So for me right now, we're nourishing communities around Florida. We're feeding a state. We'd like to, be able to grow and scale, and we will scale the U.S. and we'll hopefully be able to do that sooner than later, and we'll make a bigger impact on this nation. And I believe the U.S. is the greatest country there is, but it needs a lot of help, especially in the nutrition side. So many people don't realize that they are absolutely being poisoned. They're absolutely eating foods that are destroying them from the inside out. And I want to be a part of the movement that reverses that and gets, really makes America healthy again.
Yeah. And, I feel like since COVID,
yeah,
I feel like paying attention to health, what's going in our bodies, if we're drinking out of a water bottle, microplastic, the oils, I'm for one, seed oils, it doesn't fit well with me.
Yeah.
I know that's a big area for you. For yourself here, as far as competition, not that I'm worried or anything like that, but what do you say to your competition? The competitors who are, whether it's the same concept or whether it's just someone who they can provide a fast casual, but they obviously don't care about the health benefits behind it, where for you it's a priority.
To any one of my competitors that are truly putting out healthy food, I have 2 words: thank you. And I say that because they are helping me educate the masses, helping people, lead them towards a healthier lifestyle. There's a lot of healthy fast casual restaurants that I admire. There's other ones that I don't. And at the end of the day, I think that there's enough mouths out there for everyone. This isn't, for me, I'm never so focused on my competition. I do say thank you as well because I'm a very competitive person. So if I have strong competition, guess what? It just revs me up even more.
Fires you up.
Yeah, it just fires me up even more. And I have, year over year, in the last 10, 12 years, that's all I've done is if I have great competition, you better believe I'm going to level up. You better believe I'm going to push the Vale brand to new heights and evolve for the guest and make us an even greater competition for them. So I say thank you for that because I'm the type of person that I just don't stop. You can keep on trying to evolve and you can have more resources. You can have a bigger company. You can have more stores than me. But I'm just never going to stop.
We're just getting started.
Exactly.
So before we wrap up, about 5 or so minutes here, for you, what's going to help Sunny get worldwide? What's going to help you get to that level? I
think it's really, people understanding how much we really care, right? And people understanding why they should be eating at Vale versus other places. We're a place where we want to solve a problem and be that solution for everyone in our communities, and them understanding that they're not just, when they come into Vale, they're not just investing in their health, they're investing in a company that is truly, genuinely caring about their health and wanting to get better year over year for them. And we have delivered on that promise. You can ask my guests who've had my food in 2016. You can ask them who are still eating my food now in 2025. And they can tell you year over year, the food has gotten better. Vale as a brand has gotten better. We've only innovated and added more and more and more value for them. And that's my constant, focus is as you invest in Vale and you and our guests come back and they spend with us, I promise to them that we're constantly going to be innovating and adding more and more for them to be a one-stop shop for healthy food. And we're evolving into where we're also doing a lot more in the wellness space. So we have launched our own supplements, we have our own protein powders, we have our own grass-fed collagen. We're doing other things where it's under the Vale brand and they can trust it as that one-stop shop solution. So ultimately, for where we are now and where we're going and what's going to get us to that scale, it really is finding out. I mean, first off, let me just say, I don't want to go to 100 stores tomorrow. I don't want to do it the wrong way. I'm focused on quality growth over quantity growth, because if I have 10 stores and they're all 10 are not firing on all cylinders, there's no reason to go to 11. There's no reason to go to 20. To me, it doesn't make sense. You need to make sure the business from an internal standpoint is there, solid, before you want to go external. And for me, there's parts of business where you need to understand there's times you need to move fast, there's times you need to move slow. And there's times that when you're moving slow, you think you're moving slow externally, but internally you're moving crazy fast. And right now I can tell you, we are this year in 2025, the velocity that we're moving at is just, it's next level. Every person in my organization is just they feel it. They feel the shift. I don't know if it's something of just 2025, but we feel the shift, and there's a lot of incredible things that we're working on that I can promise every one of my guests around Florida, they're going to be really excited.
Must be in the food.
Oh yeah. The food keeps me energized. I eat it every day.
Yeah. Before we wrap up here, anything you want to share or anything on your mind?
Man, I'm honestly so appreciative, of the opportunity, everything that I have in my life. I feel so fortunate and blessed to be passionate about what I do. I'm working with people like yourself. When I talk to you, I can feel how passionate you are, working in your business, consulting, helping your clients really take their businesses to the next level. I'd love, for you to talk to me about how you have that fire, what keeps you going before we wrap up, because when I talk to you, I can feel it. It just comes out naturally. So I'd love to hear what keeps you keep on growing in 2025 and beyond.
I appreciate you sharing that. It's one thing to find vision, clarity, your why, that's part of it. I'll put that to the side. That's the cliche answers I could give you. The biggest area for me is knowing the impact that our voices could have, or our impact our leadership could have across the world. The language we speak, it's a challenging language. It's not a yes man mentality. It's, what if mentality. It's the conversation of that extra layer of oomph. You could pop your chest out and say, what if this happened? Or what if that happened? We're talking a bigger language. It's the most attractive language. It's the most attractive style. So what fires me up, back to our mission that I shared with you just a little bit ago, to enlighten, entertain, and empower. All the 9 different divisions, they all play a huge role in that part. But what fires me up the most is the impact we can make on the entrepreneurs we speak to. The current and future leaders are huge. I spoke to an entrepreneur, in fact, today. This is a true story. I'm not going to share any details. Besides, I said, hey, John, why are you driving so hard? He sold his business for an incredible amount, a couple $1 million, between 50 to 100 million. I said, why are you still driving so hard? Just challenge him, see what answer he's going to give me. And he says, Antonio, because of X, Y, Z, because of a certain health condition. And I took a moment, and you drop your voice a little bit. You're in the moment. You're talking a little bit slower. I said, John, you don't even have to share that with me. I appreciate you sharing that. But he goes, I want to leave it for my kids. I want to leave it for my family. And this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I just want to make sure I do the right thing. I'm building this new business, and I want to do whatever it takes. I'm fired up. The good news is I'm now towards remission, but I'm not going to let anything stop me. I just found my fire. And guess what? That moment, you get the chills. You get a certain type of adrenaline because I can't take much credit. My credit goes back to Patrick Bet-David, our leadership team. Everything I know now goes directly to Patrick. But I'm able to share that language or challenge that entrepreneur to hear what they're doing and how they're impacting the world and know what fires them up to leave an impact on the masses. Wow. That fires me up. And that's one conversation. I talk to 80% of my day, I'm talking to CEOs and founders. And it could be someone just coming out of college and are trying to figure it out, like a story we could share. Yep. Or it could be an entrepreneur who runs an incredible operation who just needs help to be the best CEO and the best father he can be. That's what fires me up, because I know that we're only getting started. This is just the beginning, but wow, that's what gets me going.
Wow, well said, Antonio. I mean, it's really been a pleasure. I could talk to you for like another 2-3 hours, going on to this, man. But it really, whenever we can get together like this, it always gets me revved up, man. I'm so appreciative you had the time, and we could catch up and chat.
It's about time, Sunny. Appreciate you, brother. Thanks for coming out.
Of course.
You got it.